it's a great question. It's a great question. Um, so agreed. Like there is some sense, like as far as I can tell, and something physics that like everything is deterministic. So you've got causes, you've got conditions, you've got exceptionless laws that are true everywhere. And like even if that's not quite what's happening on like a microscopic scale, like sort of something extremely deterministic like supervenes like on the macroscopic scale. And one could even take another step back and talk about something like super determinism, where it's just like, you know, in any case, like things are just happening, and they're happening lawfully. Um, so like so agreed. Like there's some sense in which we can't change anything. Um, I think where things get weird is like not every part of us believes that. So it's like there's going to be some percentage of the human system that's sort of going to be, like fighting the future, fighting the self, just like fighting, trying to change things, trying to change what's going to happen. Um, so like uh, there's a sense in which someone can do that, in a sense where someone can't. So like uh, if if a person like has the experience of making a choice, like all things being equal, if that choice is stable, like something different is going to happen in the future than if they hadn't made that choice. But of course, like if you take a bigger step back, it's like they're making that choice was like predetermined in some way. Okay, so
Mhm.
yeah, okay. um so like one meditation teacher talks about, he uses the term participation, where like even though like things kind of just happen, like a lot of the human system is like not on board with that at first, but it's like over time with training, with meditation, it's like the whole human system can learn to like participate with like what is or what's happening. um so like meditation in part can be thought of as like aligning with what is and what's going to happen and what is happening and whatever. um and so taking a step back, it's like there's also this thing where not everybody stumbles upon meditation, and for people who do stumble on meditation and stumble on a good meditation system, not everybody realizes it's a good meditation, or not everybody decides to meditate. And also like not everybody has the financial and relationship resources to meditate. um, so it's like, so in one sense, like whether or not someone meditates is like kind of under their control, and then in another sense it's like less under their control, because they might not have been born into a life situation or life factors where it's like easy for them to meditate. But then in another sense it kind of is under their control, in that like they might be able to overcome those like life factors. But then in another sense, like taking a big step back, it's like all that's kind of determined anyway. So it's like so like for someone who has like this kind of realization around determinism, it's like all this can be pretty scary, where if they feel like they're trapped in their own minds and like things are kind of out of control and they're suffering, and like they have a sense of like kind of not being able to do anything about that. um so there's a couple of things here. One, um over time, like with proper meditation, like there are ways in which a person can come to like never suffer ever again. Not universally, but in some ways. So like if someone feels like they're out of control and that they're like a deterministic process that's like just going to suffer on, and it's like they can't do anything about it, um that is something that can go away over time. um because like a person can kind of like in some sense go through their mind with like a fine-tooth comb and like look for every part of themselves that is like super freaked out, metaphorically speaking, comfort that part, help that part understand that it doesn't have to suffer. um and then just kind of be almost absolutely 99.99% sure that there's just none of that left. And then like even if that person like gets in a car accident or has a traumatic brain injury, or like something terrible happens to them, it's like you know, the there's just no more of that in the physical system, and just the person will not suffer in those particular ways ever again. Um, so it's possible to have that kind of mastery, to kind of have that uh, confidence, or to train at that particular level. Um, and then whether or not a person does that, like I think there is room for something like a like very agnostic, very non-Christian like kind of grace, um, where it's like some people, encounter the causes and conditions that cause them to do that for themselves, and like some people do not encounter the causes and conditions that cause them to do that for themselves. Um, and so like there's various kind of metaphysical ways to like be okay with that. One of those ways is to like decide to be a person who uh, introduces those things into the world for other people, as well as like to surround themselves with people that will like remind them to like meditate. um, so like uh, and even like sort of thinking to do that is itself like a form of grace. So like I just kind of think of it as like kind of taking grace where it comes, like being reminded to meditate, getting like windfalls and causes and conditions to meditate, like remembering to like surround myself with people who like help me like meditate and meditate skillfully, and like, do like positive sum cooperation in games and everything, and like make the world a better place. Um, and in some ways that's like the best we can do. And like, I think most people over time like kind of find that that's like enough. Um, because like every time like they get scared or concerned, or things like look like they're falling apart, like the long-term meditator realizes that like there is something that they can do, like um even if it takes like 5 minutes or 5 hours. And then the next time something bad happens, they're even less likely to kind of have those experiences of like learned helplessness. So I don't know, better and better and better and better. And like that's kind of like how I deal with kind of being a deterministic process, like and sort of effectively participating with that, and reading like the Tao Te Ching.